Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Dadas Show, coming to you from the newly refurbished Manzoni 680 Hotel here in Nairobi's CBD. I'm your host, Ashiko Mbone. Now, as our name suggests, the Dadas Show aspires to promote the spirit of sisterhood and solidarity amongst Kenyan women. And we do this by creating an open and safe platform for women to discuss issues pertaining to their health and lifestyle, their careers and family, and everything that affects them in one way or another. We also take time to celebrate formidable women who are doing big things, not only for themselves, but also for their communities. The month of May is Lupus Awareness Month. It's a time when we shine a light on a condition that affects millions across the world, especially women. Lupus is often referred to as the silent illness, but for those living with it, the impact is deeply real, physically, emotionally, and socially. On this episode of Dadas Show, we are joined by ladies who are living with this condition and have to deal with it day in, day out. We're also joined by experts who are helping leading charge for better treatment, diagnosis, and understanding of this condition. This is not just a conversation. This is a call to listen, to understand, and to also act. Because behind every lupus warrior, there's a story that needs to be heard. As always, we welcome you at home to take part in this and any other conversation that we may have across all social media platforms at KBC Channel 1. You can also reach me directly at Ashiko, the host, across all social media platforms. You can also talk to us on Facebook at Dadas KBC. We look forward to hearing from you and your feedback on this and any other show that we may have aired before. Before we get into today's conversation, let's take a look at the following feature.
Lupus is a chronic autoimmune disease where the body's immune system becomes hyperactive and attacks its own tissues and organs. The disease is a multi-system disorder which may present in many different ways. Lupus has specific and non-specific symptoms. Non-specific symptoms may include fatigue, weight loss, weight gain, fever, or swollen glands. Specific features include skin rashes, photosensitivity, arthritis, kidney disorder, neurological disorders, blood disorders, and immune disorders. However, symptoms vary from one individual to the other, and it can mimic other disorders, hence making it difficult at times to make a diagnosis. Lupus is more common in women, especially between the ages of 15 to 45 years, people of African, Hispanic, Asian, and Native American descent, and those with a family history of autoimmune diseases. The exact cause is unknown, but it's likely a combination of genetic, hormonal, environmental, and possibly viral factors. Lupus impacts patients in many different ways depending on the harshness of the disease, with 60% end up living with some type of muscle pain and 90% may have some form of arthritis. Currently, there is no cure for lupus. However, many different types of treatments can help manage the symptoms. This focuses on lifestyle changes involving diet, educating oneself about the disease, regular exercise, and dressing appropriately to avoid excess sun exposure. Drugs to suppress the immune system are one of the most powerful treatments for lupus. Kenya has specialists in many different areas working with lupus patients. There are some limitations in availability of drugs and the high prices often charged for medication and services. It is believed that there are many new drugs under development and there is hope in the near future of better quality of life as a result of new therapies. For Dadas Show, my name is Miriam Odanga.
Welcome back. So today's conversation is all about lupus and lupus awareness. And today, like I mentioned, I'm joined with ladies, very, very brave ladies who have to deal with this autoimmune disease day in, day out. I'm also joined by an expert who is leading in the charge for better treatment, diagnosis, and even understanding this particular condition. Because after all, it's Lupus Awareness Month. So we need to do our part in educating the public on every single nuance of this particular condition. So thank you so much for joining us. I want to start off with you. Our expert of the day is Dr. Angela Migoa. and she is a pediatric rheumatologist. Thank you so much, Dr. Migoa, for joining us. Right next to her, we've got the beautiful Victoria Kiende, who is a lupus warrior. She will tell us what her life is like, what her day-to-day, when she was diagnosed with this condition, and how she, how she lives her life. And then finally, we've got Charity Kanampiu, who looks like, tried and tested. She has the book. She understands kila kitu about lupus. And that's why we are here today. We want you to tell us, how can we as society, how can the government, how can the public and the private sector support lupus warriors? Of course, in a bid to at least make everybody's life better and for inclusivity. I can also not fail to acknowledge my wonderful, wonderful audience, which, which has quite a number of lupus warriors. So this show is for you. This is a moment for you. We will give majority of you an opportunity to talk to us and to tell us a little bit about yourself. So asanteni sana for making time to come and sit with us. And for you at home who watch us every single Sunday, thank you so much for making time to join us as we learn, as we interact, and as we support each other through discussing various contentious issues that affect the women of Kenya. So to get the ball rolling, we've called you, leave the pediatric side, the rheumatologist. More, explain to us what a rheumatologist does.
The way our bodies have been created, everything is held in place by what we call the connective tissue. That's why our brain is not just floating, right? It's in a special casing we call the skull, right? Our lungs and hearts are not just anywhere. They're in a special casing called the ribs, isn't it, right? So all these tissues that hold our organs in place, we call them connective tissue, right? So that includes the bones and the muscles and the ligaments. So rheumatology is the study of the diseases that attacks the connective tissue, right? The commonest of these conditions is arthritis. So most people, when they hear rheumatology, they think that you must be having arthritis, right? Yeah. But you see, this connective tissue is everywhere, in the brain, in the liver, right? When your muscles are affected, some of our diseases present with that, right? The blood vessels, because remember your blood vessels have to be held in place when they go to the different organs. So in summary, rheumatology is the specialty of medicine that looks at all the diseases that attacks the connective tissue.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Now, I want to move on to you, Victoria and Charity, to talk about what your journey has been like. Before we get into the meat, before we get into the science of it all, tell us a little bit about yourself and your lupus journey. We'll start off with you, Victoria.
So my journey started when I was a baby. I was born prematurely at 6 months. So after that, I was always sick. It was always high fevers. My mom explains it as they used to sit and laugh, and then the next minute they're looking at me, I'm convulsing. Oh dear. And they don't understand what is going on. So it began like that. I used to bleed a lot. And then now being taken to Kenyatta as a baby, I was referred to Kenyatta from the community facility. So we went to Kenyatta. I started at ENT, that is ear, nose, and throat. From there, I went to hematology. After that, I went to oncology. I even went to post-operation complications, and I did not.
And you hadn't had surgery?
Yes, because they were not understanding what was going on. When I was a baby, there was no pediatric rheumatologist. So being able to case something like that was very hard, right? So my mom read a certain book. It was called "It's Not Just Growing Pains." It was written by an author in the United States, I think. So she read that and she was like, I understand this. There's something here. She reached out to a pediatric rheumatologist in Cincinnati Hospital. And from there, she sent a couple of my tests that had been done. And then the doctor told her this might be systemic lupus, right? So after that, we were told in Kenyatta, there's no pediatric rheumatologist. You have to wait until you're 16. And I was 9 years old. We had gone the journey for 9 solid years, and it was not getting better because it was not being managed. I started taking, because I could not sleep at all, they used to give me antidepressants when I was so young, right? Yeah, so after that, the journey continued like that. Eventually, when I was 15, we found a way, when I was 14, we found a way to see Professor Oyo Mondi. We had been forwarded by those doctors in the States. And so that's how my journey began. I was diagnosed, and then that's how it's been since then. Yeah.
But Charity, you're also a lupus warrior, you know, and you know you're older in age, so I'm sure you've experienced a little bit more on the front of maybe even society and their reaction and family, etc. So kindly share with us your journey.
Okay, I tell a story of resilience, patience, boldness, and being able to live with people. My journey started just some 10 years ago. That is when I was diagnosed. Before that, I had issues which I never knew it was sickness. I just walked to K&H, having some sores on my mouth, and then having some brushes on my body which showed bleeding. When I did a full hemogram, that was the first test which was done. I was told that I was at 2 platelets, which the doctor said was very dangerous. I was admitted, and my journey started with so many tests, trying to find out what was eating my platelets. I was in an oncology clinic for around 3 months before I did the bone marrow biopsy to find out whether my blood was being produced properly. And then from there, 3 months later, I was diagnosed with lupus, which did not shock me so much. So many people are shocked when they are told they have lupus. Mine did not shock me too much because I expected something worse than lupus if they are raised. And I've been battling lupus through having so many other conditions on top. I was diagnosed later with fibromyalgia, migraines, and then vascular necrosis, which is the death of bones due to lack of blood. Blood doesn't reach to the end of the bone. So my shoulder joints were eaten up, and that is where I call it a disability because there are so many things I cannot do with my hands. And with the society, life has not been easy. I decided to speak so that I don't get so many questions. Because many people ask, hey, are you the one who says is sick? I don't say I'm sick. I am sick. And that is when I decided to speak and let people know that I am not well. I'm able to live with people well and better because I don't get such questions. Why are you not eating this? Why are you not doing this? The society understands us better when we speak.
I love that. The society understands us better when we speak. And to be quite frank, even just looking at you, it's not easy to tell that she's going through this, she's going through that, and perhaps that's why lupus is called an invisible illness. And Dr. I'll want you to touch on that a little bit later. But before we jump, that is putting the cart in front of the horse. Let's start simple and explain to us the way you've explained to us before. For those of us who may not be fully familiar with what Victoria and Charity are talking about, kindly tell us, what is lupus and how does it affect the body?
So the way we've been created, we have all been blessed with a natural defense system. Yeah? In medicine, we call it the immune system. You can think of it like our Kenya Defense Forces, right? They are there to protect our nation and the citizens. Now, when your defense system is working well, it should only be attacking the germs that would invade your body to cause sickness and all these infections, right? But in lupus, for very many reasons, some we understand, some we still don't understand, this army gets confused. It goes rogue, and instead of just attacking the germs that cause infection, it now attacks the body. Yeah? It's like an army that goes rogue. Instead of fighting the foreigners invading the country, the army is fighting the citizens. Okay? So that's what's happening in lupus. Your natural army is completely confused, and it attacks everything from head to toe. That's why in medicine we say lupus has 1,000 faces. Because believe me when I tell you, it can look like anything. You've heard our sisters here say, oh, someone was bleeding, others were having fever, seizures. Yeah, I was sharing with them. I had a case of a girl, I've never forgotten her. She went to bed one night, perfectly fine, like you and me today, and then the following morning, she wakes up completely blind. Completely blind. No warning, no symptom, nothing. And that was lupus.
That is so scary.
Because you see, your natural army is everywhere, right? It has to be positioned everywhere to protect every organ. So, and that's why we call it, it's an autoimmune disease, because your immune system, defense, is fighting self, auto, all right? So in a nutshell, that's what lupus is.
Let me move over to you, Victoria. How do you manage your daily life? You're pretty young. You know, you want to do this, you guys have a lot of energy, there's so much energy. How do you manage your daily life, including tasks and relationships and all of that?
Okay, I think if I answer that without giving background from when I was a child, because for me it started way early,
Of course,
the journey,
please carry on.
I would be doing a disservice, right?
Yeah.
So as a child, I used to go to school at 11 a.m. The teachers had given me that advice because they were saying how much I was struggling.
Yes.
And I really thank God for a proactive family. My mom, she went above and beyond to advocate for me in spaces. And so that enabled me to finish primary school. In high school, now you get to a more tougher ground, right? Yeah. So there's boarding, I was really passionate. I loved school. I think not being able to go to school was so stressful for me, so I loved school naturally. And people used to call me a truant because they're thinking you're not coming to school because you don't want to come to school.
Because you don't want to come, yeah.
Yeah, because you'll be here 3 days this week, and then the whole of next month you're not in school, right? So even sitting for my primary exams, my teachers had to go and speak for me in the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, so that they can allow me to sit for my exams, because my absent days were way above my present days, right? So going to high school, my friends used to wash my clothes, they carry me around because at some point I couldn't walk. I had a terrible time. If someone asked me to go back to high school, I would not, because it was so bad. Now coming to college, the first week of college, my mom was like, just come back home. It was bad. Due to her advocacy, I was able to have a hostel to myself, a whole hostel, which was amazing at Kabete Polytechnic. But I still could not manage because I was doing a very intense course. As much as I qualified, now being able to go through day to day, the classes were very hectic. The waking up early, it was terrible. So eventually I took an academic break. I did end up even finishing high school like past my colleagues because now I had a whole year and a half out of school in high school as well. So it's been like that. We do life when we can.
We take it as it comes.
Yeah, so the partying, we don't have strength for that.
We don't
we don't have strength for that. We just manage what we can. Yes.
Thank you so much for that, Victoria. Definitely, and I'm so glad that you could make time to actually come and sit with us. I want to pose the same question to you, Charity, because you're two ladies you work in two very different parts, but with a common, with common underlying problems. Common, similar. Actually, not common. Let's say similar-ish. What about you? What does a day-to-day life in Charity's, a day-to-day look like in Charity's life?
I take a day at a time. There are some days which are good, other days are bad. About life of maybe partying and everything else, we don't even have that time or the opportunities because you cannot make arrangements with anyone. I don't have I don't have a family, I don't have children, I don't have a husband. I decided not to date when I realized I cannot keep it for myself. I have to tell somebody first, if you want to become my friend, I have a burden. I have medications to buy. I have a life which is not common. My life is not ordinary. You will have to keep up with me. So when I realized people, they don't like the truth, I did not want to lie to Wansa nor Farao. I just wanted them, I just left dating and anything else. I decided to stick with my family so that they can at least, because they understand me and they are able to help me.
Still on you, Charity, what are some of the common misunderstandings? Because you've brought something very interesting about lupus and relationships and dating. For you to get to a point and say, relationships are already too much work, because people just don't have enough knowledge about the condition, and they'll end up stressing me, and I'm already stressed out as is. What are some of the misunderstandings that people have in regards to women living with lupus?
The first misunderstanding is that lupus warriors are proud, they are lazy, they are self-centered. They don't want to associate, which is not the truth, because lupus is not a decision. It is a disease. So I will not decide not to be able to walk for a distance, or not decide not to be able to help someone. Like for women, we have the chamas, and then the what do we call them? The group. Okay, maybe someone has or someone has some visitors in her house, and then as a friend, she needs somebody who can help in, and then I tell that person, I cannot. I will not be able to help you because I will not touch cold water. I will not bend. So you see, they say, this person is proud, or you love yourself so much, which is not true. I would love to do much. What I tell the society is that let me be. When I'm able to work, let me do. When I'm not able, allow me to rest. And that is my daily life, and that is what immediate family, they have understood that, so I'm able to live well with little or less stress.
Wow. Would you like to add something? What are some of the common misunderstandings society has on women with lupus?
I think now when I was listening to her story, I'm like, I don't think it's costed me a lot in terms of relationships, but I've seen it cost my mom. Because now she was my caregiver. She is my caregiver, right? So she never had friends. She never had chamas now growing up. Because the only time she has to cater for me. To the point of, in fact, all her bosses were all involved in my life because now everyone is looking for a solution to you feeling better. So all her energy was spent overcompensating at work so that she's not, the times she's like, she used to, all her contracts read she starts work at 10 because she has to make sure I'm okay when I wake up. Most of the nights we've not slept. Right? So I've seen it cost her so many relationships. And I think the misconception is that you're too much work. It's not a lie, but it's a misconception because of the mindset it carries, right? So, or you're, like she said, you're very selfish. People think you're not creating time intentionally.
Let's move on to you, Dr. Migoa. I know very many people are wondering, for this disease that presents how it wants to present, and it does. Can the question, what are the earliest signs and symptoms, for lupus, is that even valid?
The early stages of the disease, it can be very non-specific. Your fever, you're tired, you have poor appetite. Another sign, very subtle, but like for most of the children I treat, quite a number of them present with this like 2-3 months before the full-blown disease comes, they begin to lose their hair. So they'll tell you when they go to the salon, the hair is falling off more than usual. Or if they have open hair, when they wake up, the pillow has a lot. Yes. Right? So those are like very non-specific. You can think of that as category 1.
That's category 1, correct.
Then category 2 are the signs that are classic for lupus.
Yeah.
And one of them, which is well known, is what we call the butterfly rash.
Okay.
And that is a rash that normally occurs over your nose, nasal bridge, onto your cheeks. And in fact, the word lupus came in the 1800s or something, because that rash reminded them of how your cheeks would look like when a wolf would bite you in those ancient days. So that's how it got the name, the lupus rash. So it's a butterfly rash, and it typically spares the crease around the nose, but it goes over the bridge of the nose and over the cheeks. Another classic sign of lupus is when they go out to the sun, the areas exposed to the sun develop a rash. Okay? Again, when you see that, suspicion is high for lupus. Another sign, and Charity mentioned it, is they can develop sores in the mouth, and typically on the roof of the mouth. And normally that one on the roof of the mouth is not painful, unless someone is keen and observes themselves as they are brushing their teeth. They would actually never know that it's there on the roof of the mouth. Yeah. Those are some of the classic signs when we see, then we say, this might be lupus. So that's category 2. Then category 3 is, remember I said your natural army is in every structure and organ.
Correct.
All right? So sometimes they can just present to you with issues in the organ. They might not have the fever, they might not have the rash, but all of a sudden, like she had mentioned, she was having convulsions, right? Others come to us, the kidney is failing, right? Others, the heart is failing. Others, this hepatitis, right? So what we normally say, when you have ruled out the common causes of the signs and symptoms in those other organs, and everything is negative, ask yourself, could it be lupus?
Victoria, I mean, what message might you have for women who are silently struggling to hear? What message do you have for them to hear?
I never used to talk about my health issues ever. Because you see, most times when you're diagnosed with lupus, there's either pre-autoimmune diseases that you've been diagnosed with or post, So you're not just dealing with one diagnosis. So I can say I'm a lupus patient, but I have other autoimmune diseases, right? So there's that. You don't want to talk about it because you'll seem like you have many problems, So, and then you don't want people to start treating you like your glass. I remember in class 8, the way we sandpaper the desk so that you can go. So my friend was sandpapering my desk, so I was sat just next to him telling stories, and then he goes like, "Ebu talk up, awewe kabla utufaintie." So it's like there's already, and it was coming from a good place, but you don't want that, like people are walking around eggshells, around you. Yeah. So I think what I would say, definitively, from what I have learned, you keeping quiet, as personal as it might feel, is a disservice to other women. It's a disservice to the health system. It's a disservice to so many other things, because when I can speak about it, I can get the word out there.
Of course.
And then I can help a mother who is thinking, what is wrong with my child? Or a woman who is thinking, what is wrong with my body? Because like you said, it's a literal fight. You wake up, I have had my heart have issues, my bowels, I don't even know how a normal body works. I just know it's not this, right? But when we can talk about it, when we can have these discussions, that can push us to have actions that align with our talks.
Wow. Excellent. We definitely have so much more after the break, because we want to find out what support is being offered to lupus warriors. How are they accessing help? What can the government do? How can they intervene? And we'll definitely be talking more about that on the question and answer session right after the break. Don't go far away. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you have missed quite an engaging first session, but fear not, because all previously aired episodes of Dadas Show can comfortably be found on YouTube at Dadas Show KBC. So you can always catch up with what you might have missed. Remember, this episode is on lupus awareness because it's the month of May, which is Lupus Awareness Month. Now, we are at my favorite part of the show, which is a question and answer session, which gives an opportunity to my wonderful audience to interact with my outstanding panel. So if you have any questions, concerns, remember that you can always jot them down on a piece of paper and post them on our Facebook, on our Instagram, on all the pages of social media that you can definitely reach us, either at Ashiko the host or KBC Channel 1 or Dadas Show KBC. So to carry on, I want to welcome Helen, who has our first question of the day. So Helen, karibu sana.
Thank you very much. I'm Helen Wanyeki, a community health promoter. My question goes out to Charity. What support system do we have out there? And more so, what big difference does it make for the women fighting with lupus? Thank you.
The support system outside here, we have come together, some groups, so that we can at least support one another through we are not able to give so much to give, but we are able to support you through the how you can live your life to reduce stress and help you at least when you have some issues which you need to know before you get to your doctor. We have an organization of just patients. It's not an organization which is raising money. It's just an organization for creating awareness and supporting lupus patients. We just formed ourselves so that we can support one another. The other thing, our doctors, our rheumatologists are very good with us. They listen to us and they advise us even when we are at our lowest point. So in the group we share the numbers for the rheumatologists and the doctors in whichever way we can. If you have any other issue which is not lupus but lupus related, we are able to give you to the best doctors we have in the country for any other issue.
So thank you so much for that, Charity. And of course, we applaud the organizations that really step in and help, especially Lupus Warriors. Asanteni sana for that. We want to move on to our next question or comment of the day, which is from Barbara.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Barbara Mudhuki. My question is to you, doctor. Is there any treatment for lupus patients? And if not, is there any advancement that has been made to control the disease?
And this is something we often discuss when we start the treatment journey with the lupus patients. Our treatment goal as rheumatologists is to achieve something called remission, not cure. It's important to understand this, because if I'm to cure you because of your lupus, I should give you a new army. But the reality is that's the prerogative of your creator. However you choose to call your creator. So what we do with our therapy is like we retrain the army. We retrain the army so that it stops fighting the body, but it still remains strong to fight the germs that cause infection and all these problems. So one of the pillars, and especially for ladies, is very important because it has got protective effects even for the unborn baby, is a very old anti-malarial medication, which as rheumatologists we love because it has so many benefits, and that's hydroxychloroquine. Some countries don't have hydroxychloroquine, so they use chloroquine. And this is a therapy often our patients use for life, right? And very important even to protect the unborn babies. Now, the rest of the medicines that we use tackle many areas. One, they can help reduce the weapons that your natural army is using, all right? The other thing, remember I said you have a natural army, and you see the way our army also has a center of command, and it has to communicate with the soldiers, isn't it? Before the soldiers execute, right? So some therapies block that communication between your center of command, and the soldiers. And these soldiers in our army communicate using special molecules, right? Which we give many fancy names like cytokines and all that. So the therapies that block that communication are what we call biological therapies, right? Very sophisticated, very target specific. And those are some of the medications that are available now. There are long, complicated names like belimumab, afinolumab, and rituximab, but you don't have to stress about it. The concept is what is important. Then the third aspect of treatment is geared more for which organ is affected. So if we find that, for example, you're having problems with convulsions, right? Over and above these other medicines I'm talking about, you might need some medicines to control the seizures.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yes.
If we find your heart is failing, in addition to all these other therapies, we might give you some medicines to help your heart pump. You understand? So those are the therapies that we use for lupus. But something we keep forgetting, which is so important, are I would say the non-pharmacological, the non-medical interventions that are important, which we keep forgetting.
Yes.
I always say it's important to go back to basics. And what are the basics? Eat healthy, avoid stress, exercise, right? And something very important for lupus patients is protection from the sun. Sunscreen is key. I once had a child who comes from the northern frontiers, and she had terrible lupus, and the parents were so good in the therapy. And I was even beginning to wonder, are the medicines they are taking fake? And then I thought, wait, are you protecting her from the sun? Then they said, no, we haven't. So I said, please, give her sunscreen. And if sunscreen is not there, get an umbrella, wear a long-sleeved clothes, and a hat.
Yeah.
Do you know once she did that, her lupus became under control. Some of the medicines were even able to reduce. So we can't forget the basics. Yes. Sunscreen protection is key. Healthy eating, exercise, avoid stress, adequate rest. That is done plus
the medication.
all those other medications I was talking about.
Let me ask you something, Victoria. What would you like to see more, especially? We're talking about, the numbers are staggering, to be honest. We're talking about 15 in the whole of Africa. What would you like to see, especially in the medical fraternity? We have Daktari here, you can tell us, because you dealt with this from when you were an infant.
So I think if there's one thing that keeps me up at night is thinking of a 5-year-old version of Victoria somewhere out there, male or female. We're thinking the mother is crying, the baby is... Fortunately, I wasn't crying. That's why they never knew I was convulsing, because I wouldn't start crying when I start feeling like something is wrong, right? But I'm just thinking a very distressed, very frustrated baby. I think what I would say is like a call to action for me, now knowing what I know,
Yes.
and having been through the journey I've been on. I'd say I once heard Daktari speak at, she was doing a keynote speech, and she was saying there's now a course that medical doctors can take. It's not going to make you a rheumatologist, but it is going to give you enough so that when you see a rheumatology case, you know it is a rheumatology case. You know, because we cannot ask all the doctors to be rheumatologists, right?
We can't.
Yeah.
We can't tell them.
From the community dispensary, from the hospital that is near you, a doctor can know this is presenting. I'm not sure which disease in the rheumatology family, but I know this is a rheumatology
That's
issue,
the direction that
right?
should be taken.
So that we can go now to the rheumatologist quicker, so that we can get a diagnosis faster, right? Because as much as there's no cure as per where we're standing, management is beautiful for anyone who is going through it.
Thank you so much for that. We're going to move on to our next question of the day, which are a question or comment.
Thank you very much. My name is Lona. I'm a lupus nephritis warrior. My question goes to Dr. Angela. So this is about pregnancy in lupus patients. Can lupus patients get pregnant, healthy pregnancy, that is? And if they can get, what cautions should they take? As Victoria said, we experience early menopause. How can we deal with that? Yeah.
Wow. Let's even give us a little bit more insight, because now we are not only talking about the pregnancy, we're talking about infertility, we're talking about menstrual cycle, we're talking about, please explain what it is like for a woman with lupus when puberty hits. How does it present itself? Is it possible for lupus warriors to get pregnant? And if they do, is the pregnancy sustainable? And how do you protect the baby?
So one thing I can empower all the lupus warriors is that if you choose to go down the route of motherhood, have that discussion with your obstetrician gynecologist and say that I've reached this phase in my life and I would like to have children. Then they will look at the medicines you are. That would be the next logical question they would ask, to see what medications are you on. Because some medications are okay if you choose to conceive, others are not, because they can lead to abnormalities in the baby. Your obstetrician gynecologist then ideally would work closely, hand in hand, with the rheumatologist. Because we want to see, is your disease well controlled? Okay? Because if the disease is not well controlled, right, there are complications that can emerge with the baby. You run, of course, the risk of premature births. You run the risk of miscarriages, right? So here, it's very important. The obstetrician gynecologists working hand in hand with the adult rheumatologist. And at the time of delivery, they should be alerting the pediatric team. That will include the newborn expert, we call them neonatologists, and us, the pediatric rheumatologists, right? Because babies born to moms who have lupus have some risks that come along with them. One of them, and it's not to cause any fear or panic to the audience, is that these children could have abnormalities in the heart that put them at risk of heart attack. You know, so you find a newborn child is born, and now all of a sudden the heart is not working. Okay, it is possible to conceive, all right, but the ideal thing is to try and make the circumstances very appropriate for the conception to be successful and for the pregnancy to last the 9 months and to have both a healthy baby and a healthy mom.
We have come to the end of one of the most, I think, informative episodes of Dadas show that I have had a pleasure of hosting. And if you're like me and you're truly feeling that there is a gap, there's definitely a gap, then you're right, there is a gap. There's a gap in information, there's a gap in information distribution, there's also a gap in medical care, you know. And in this month of lupus awareness, I really, really want to challenge each and every one of you who's watching us today. What do you really know about this condition? What do you know about what people go through who are living with this condition? So I want to challenge you to understand the condition, even though not for your sake, but for the person who's living, for your neighbor, for your sister, for your cousin, for your colleague, so that we can all live in a world that is more inclusive and more supportive. So I want to give this final opportunity to my wonderful panelists to give us a very, 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 very short parting shot, and then we will call it an episode.
Thank you so much. Let me first celebrate you and your show for raising awareness. No, really.
Thank you.
This is commendable, and much more needs to be done. So thank you for taking the lead. From where I sit, I look at the way forward from 3 perspectives: patient-centered, community-centered, right, and the health system. So from the patient-centered point of view, it's important we see how to empower our patients with more education on the disease, signs, symptoms, medicine, side effects. And it will be critical to have them access the investigations and medicines through the public health insurance scheme. Because, you know, they probably didn't get a chance to say it, but it's an expensive affair.
Yes.
It's an expensive affair.
I mean, I can
people have entered into poverty just trying to get a diagnosis and manage. And then also counseling. You heard them say that people think they're absconding work, that they are lazy. So mental, emotional support for them. And because we know it'll be a while before we get enough specialists, telemedicine will be important. Another important area, of course, is the research, right? Funding for research, so we can do genetic mapping, so we can see what solutions are plausible in our setup, and expanding the public health insurance scheme for treatment and diagnosis. Those would be my parting shots on some of the ways forward.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
wow. I mean, completely outline the whole. I really, really hope the powers that be are watching this show. Let's move on to Victoria. Very briefly, what would your parting shot be?
Our medication, you heard me say how management is critical, but the medication, the consultation fees, they will kill you before you even you're killed by the disease. You know, it's very expensive. It is very expensive. And people will be like, oh, but you can manage to do your day-to-day. How can you not manage to pay for insurance? Or how can you not manage to pay for your medical bills? And it's hard. It's very hard. So I think the Ministry of Health should do much, much more now to the patients, or rather the people living with lupus. I think don't take it as oh, this is my journey. Don't take it like that. Take it as, this is my journey, that I will make it your business and the next person's business. We need much more awareness, and we need to stop talking about it within ourselves. We already know, right? People out there don't know. So this is a very good step. This show, it's beautiful. I want to thank you so much for having us and hosting it. This is amazing. Thank you.
Charity, briefly, your parting shot?
First, I thank you for inviting us. Thank you. God bless you. And my parting shot, number one, goes to the government. If they are watching, please include lupus in SHA as one of the chronic diseases, because our treatment is so expensive. Lab tests are expensive. Number two, to our doctors, kindly integrate the records, so that when I move from one doctor to another, if I'm in a different county, my doctor is in Nairobi, and the doctor in Meru doesn't know anything about my history. So I have to start again. I kindly, before the government does so, Dr. Migoa, kindly speak to others, integrate the records. To the warriors, and okay, lupus affects 9 out of 10. 1% is men. We don't have men here. They are our brothers. Kindly, we warriors, let us shout. This is our month. May is Lupus Awareness Month.
So we have definitely come to the end of this very, very informative and educative episode of Dadas Show as we commemorate, Lupus Awareness Month. I hope you've learned something, because I've definitely learned so much from our warriors, from our experts, from our audience, from everybody who's been involved in this particular production. So on behalf of the production team at KBC, our wonderful location partners, Manzoni 680 Hotel, and myself, Ashiko, I wish you all a very informative week. Pick up a book on lupus, Google something, but go to the good sites, read up something, fill that RAM with information that is going to be of benefit to the person who is next to you. So until next Sunday, when we discuss, another topic, for now, let's keep it Dadas Show. I will catch you then. But for now, goodbye.